Welcome to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower, where we do our best to give you useful information in 20 minutes or less. Now, here's your host, 5-time Voice Arts Awards nominee, David Brower.
Thanks, Ellen. This is David Brower with your 20-minute podcast, and here's part 2 of our interview with Paul David Pope.
They thought, let me just say this, the people I went against thought that after they orchestrated this and did, I would just curl up in the closet in the fetal position and say I give up. But you know what? It's not in the Pope genes. I'll never give up. Well, so they thought that I would just, surrender, give up, and after that would, teach me a lesson. But you know what? It kind of did the opposite. It did two things, though. I'm kind of happy it happened. It did two things. Yeah. It really, at the time, they put it, let me give you a little chronology. They put a kidnap and ransom on all of my children. Wow. Which is an illegal thing to do without the consent of the guardian. That's actually not legal. But again, to them, there were no rules, so they would do whatever they wanted to do. Wow. And I have I have all this documented. Then had a private conversation with my mom and told her, I found all this missing money, and, we had a proper sit down, and literally, it was after 5 days after we had that conversation is when, we had the kidnap and ransom was put on my kids. And it was pretty wild. It was pretty wild. My mom would call me for about 3 months in a row and say, Mom. Mom is a word meaning don't say anything to anybody. And anyway, I after 3 or 4 months, my legal team and I decided that we were going to go public with this story.
So how did you deal with that?
Well, we're still not speaking, but... we went public with it. It was Pete Peterson, Robert Miller, and my mom. They did not deal with it well. And in fact, the answer to that was when I went public with it, there was an article in the New York Post, and page 6, it was called War of the Popes Drags in Mogul. And my lawyers went public. They went on record with this. Sure. And after all this, they, that's when they issued the warrant. And they figured, let's gag order him, And it's unbelievable, yeah. And when you read the probable cause report, you read all this, it's just hearsay. But again, they had the state attorney in their pocket. Wow. Oh no, and this thing it reeks of follow the money. So it did two things. It taught me an incredibly valuable lesson. At the time this all happened, I was very upset and very angry. I can't lie. And now I'm not angry. I'm not upset. I just want the truth to be told. Absolutely. So I'm now not emotionally vested as I was then. I mean, people would always say to me, and I say to people, what would you do if they did this to you, if they put the kidnap and ransom? I mean, considering everything I've been through and what they did, I don't think anything that I did was that bad. I did send out a bind.
When you're able to focus on the truth, believe the truth, embrace the truth, and try to use that as a bit of a shield to, keep all that BS away from you, which has got to be impossible on most days. But when you believe the truth and understand the truth and follow the truth instead of the money, it gives you a little chance to breathe a little bit and keep going, keep fighting, keep going. And the other thing I think is fascinating is how they could charge you or chase you, for lack of a better term, and not pay attention to the way your grandfather came into this world, the way he changed New York City, the way your dad came in, the way he changed the newspaper business. I mean, their drive, their passion, their ability to just say, well, screw you, we're going to do it the right way, let's go. And why they wouldn't think that you would have that same drive is beyond me.
Well, they probably know that I have it, but again, I touched on a nerve with the missing money and all that. Quite frankly, they want to exit this universe or this world as stellar, philanthropic, and angelic beings, right? Right. And they don't want the truth to be told, and they're afraid that I'm going to go out there and tell the truth. In fact, I'm the only living person, so to speak, right now that knows where the skeletons are. So they're horrified that I will come out with this information. The difference is, had they not done this to me, I wouldn't. I would probably tell the story to some extent, but after what they did to my family, they did to me, the smear campaign, the lies, the arrest and all that.
The gloves are off.
Yeah, but they are, but it's different. They are, David, but I'm not looking at it like a fight. I just want, as I said, I was right after it happened. I was very upset. I was very, very upset. I in fact sent a binder out. I said some not nice things about my mother and the group, because like you can imagine I mean, some people would have done a lot worse, right?
Yes.
But I mean, I no one's perfect. But I realized that wasn't the way to go. That the only thing to do is forgiveness. You have to learn forgiveness in life.
Yep.
And it's one of the most important things. I mean, one of my biggest people I look up to is like Nelson Mandela. I mean, 27 years in prison.
Right.
You have to learn forgiveness. And I learned forgiveness. I have forgiven them, but I haven't forgot, and I do intend to tell the story. But again, not in a mean way, not to hurt them, not to disparage them. But I just want to tell my life story, and that's part of my life story.
Absolutely.
Interestingly enough, again, it's as I mentioned, it's follow the money. Totally follow the money. Is I was always, let me mention, my father served in the CIA division called psychological warfare that my grandfather was instrumental in. So keep in mind, most of my life I was on the other side of most of these types of things, right?
Sure.
So I grew up in a family with all this, and I was familiar with how these things, the workings of how this worked. So, and especially within CAR, if we wanted something done, for the most part, we could get it done. And when I was the target, that was bad enough. But when they did the kidnap and ransom, I thought, no, that's where where do you draw the line in the sand, right? I mean, I had to hire security for my children, for myself. I mean, this was pretty bad. So I lost everything I had. I actually ended up being homeless. This is the other side of the story. It's interesting. Right. I ended up being homeless for almost 2 weeks. By maintaining my innocence through this whole thing,
right?
Because it took every penny I had to hire just a ton of lawyers to go against all these people.
You bet.
And I've managed through the years to really get back on my feet, and I'm really doing fantastic again. They didn't expect that.
Right.
They didn't expect me to not come after them, but they never expected me to tell my story, which I'm going to.
Right.
And it's going to be huge. And it's going to be the most important thing out of this, the takeaway, David, is the inspiration and the hope. Like I never lost my faith in God. Thank God with my kids, I had, all the things to ground me.
Yeah.
And animals many times like you, it's, a man's best friend, you
Absolutely.
can find comfort in that. And it's a very grounding thing. I never lost sight of that. And I thank God I had all that. But I want to inspire anybody. It could be anybody in any tragic situation. It could be an inner city type situation. It could be any person who's lost hope. With everything I've been through and a lot before this, that's the inspiration I want to give, and it's all part of the humanitarian thing. And I can talk to anybody, whether it's the president, the pope, or the guy that's in jail, right, or the guy that just, the guy that's, lost and he needs guidance. Look, I've been there, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
not by choice, but it's like the Rudyard Kipling poem. You can walk with kings, or you have to also know how to talk to the common people. So
that's right.
And my father taught me that a long time ago. So as angry as I was when this happened, and it was wrong, and they did controversialize me. They did lie. They did things that were illegal and against the law.
Yeah.
Which I have all the evidence now. It took me years to get all this, by the way. Can you imagine getting again?
I mean, you had to get into some, I'm assuming, some CIA files, some libraries, some
those things with the Freedom of Information Act. It takes years and years to get it, and you have to file again. We finally did receive it. They're heavily redacted, as you can imagine.
Sure.
But I do have them. In fact, I do even have the ones on myself. So it's interesting too, because I had a lot of contacts in the intelligence community. They were instrumental in helping me get all this, because without them, quite frankly, I wouldn't have a lot of this. So I have in the Pope Media Center, I have presidential archives, CIA files, FBI files on my grandfather, my father, myself. And the interesting thing is, when I was doing this, even on myself, I thought, what they did was just so outrageous and so egregious. But again, it's again, the number one problem again, to repeat again, is poverty.
Yeah.
And under poverty is homelessness. And, then we go on to climate, all these different, there's a slew of different things. So what I want to do with no political or no religious agenda is take the top probably 15 problems and educate people, give them timelines, and give them solutions. And the great thing about my humanitarian movement is there's no barriers. We're not going to have any barriers to entry, David. So it doesn't matter what race, religion, what color. It doesn't matter who you are. We're going to accept anybody and everybody. And that's the unification. So
that is the unification.
The divisiveness, as we see today, is in politics and religion. Even under Christianity, you can be. I was raised Catholic, so you can be Catholic, you can be Presbyterian, you can be. There's so many different. It's crazy, right? So
yeah.
But one thing we've lost in our society, and I've studied this, a lot of people are falling off of organized religions, and it's not their fault. But the problem is they are becoming, And then you have also the dumbing down of society with the drugs. And this is breeding the people that go to ISIS and go to all these crazy things and do all these crazy things. And the shootings today, 1 in every 4 has mental illness.
Yeah.
So I think we're up to 35 this year in the schools. And so I want to address all of that. And the key is, I'll give you the key. You ready?
Yep.
It's giving people a sense of belief, a sense of brotherhood, a sense of being, a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning, because all that's lost, and these people falling off the religions, so they don't have that anymore.
No, they're lost, and then they're lost, and then they're so lost that they can't reach their hand out of the ground to find their way back. God,
it's a cumulative effect with the internet, the gaming, music. They're getting their 15 minutes of fame, perhaps.
Yeah,
all these different things. Again, the lack of the parenting right now, especially.
Yep.
All these things play a huge factor in this, and then now we wonder why our youth, or it's not just our youth, but a lot of our youth, are turning to all these things. And the fact is, our world, and I'm the eternal optimist, the world is more out of control now than ever, and there's only 2 answers to this. One would be a benevolent dictator. I always say this, but that's an oxymoron. No dictator is going to lead with benevolence. And the other is a movement where you can get the world together and unite the world together with peace and solidarity. And we're going to do this with grace, and we're going to do it with elegance. We're not going to do it with, angry protesting. We're not going to do that. I won't allow that.
No.
It's going to be done with grace and civility, and that's the only way to do this. And it will work, and that's the only answer to our world at the moment.
I couldn't agree more. Forgiveness is such a huge piece of people. You don't ever have to forget, but forgiveness is such a huge piece for everybody involved on either side of the equation. And then to enter into your project, your unification project, your awareness project, whatever you want to call it, to be able to do that with dignity and grace, people will react to that. They don't know it. They may not know it. They may be so lost they're going, what the heck is he talking about? But grace has a way of just touching people when they least expect it, I think.
I think it does, and I think it's an awakening. It's like the statue in Washington, the awakening. There has to be an awakening. It's time to bring our world together, and the awakening has to be, hey guys, look at all these things. We're going to lay them all out. Here they are, but we all need to act like brothers and sisters, and like a big family, we can help and make change and affect change. And we have to make that awareness. But I find that when you tell people this, you're right, there has to be grace, and there's always resonance when you tell the truth. My only concern, and it's not insurmountable, and I won't mention names, but you have people out there today blurting, doing crazy things, and that divisiveness and that sort of what they're doing is really, people are almost desensitized to it. That is the new norm.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Yep.
And that's very concerning to me, because that's so outrageous. People are getting used to it. And not only that, they're getting used to it so much that the fact that it's not even, doesn't seem to affect them. So my only concern is when I do tell them the truth, hopefully they'll believe it, because it will be the truth, but it won't be outrageous. It won't be embellished, and it won't be for ulterior motives.
Well, and that makes it more difficult for a lot of people to accept, I think, because we are so desensitized to, can you imagine 20 years ago being desensitized to school shootings? Are you kidding me right now?
And you're kidding.
Oh my God.
I look at this thing and I go, okay, here's the difference, I think. Right? You just said it. 20, 30, David, 40, 50 years ago.
Right.
Let's just say this happened 50 years ago, okay?
Okay.
People would not be desensitized. They would not be... It would be so outrageous, and I think it would be handled a lot differently.
Totally.
Now, again, sadly, it's happened so often, and it's the new norm. And you have people doing great things, like you have the kids in Parkland.
Yep.
But they're met with great resistance, and I always say, with that's another thing I've learned the hard way, right? The incredibly hard way, that you can't always fight Tammany Hall, right? So you're not going to beat the NRA. You're just not. They have too much money. But there's a way to finesse it where you can get them and you can shame them in a good way into doing things, right? But you can't directly necessarily go. And the same with my movement. I'm not going to go against politics or religion because that would just be a huge problem, you know?
Yeah.
We're not going to badmouth any politician or religious leader because why? It's just not the point.
Yeah. So
there's no reason.
How do you get this going? How do you?
I need help. No man is an island.
Exactly.
I see this as also being something that would go into all academia, all the schools around the world, especially in our country. I want to start it in my own backyard in Florida, and in the United States. And I want to have centers eventually. I think eventually this could grow to become its own cable channel because it will be the biggest thing, and it'll transcend all religion and politics because it will be the only thing that we're talking about helping human beings and saving humanity.
Yeah. And somewhere that has to get on people's radar, you know.
It has to get on people's radar. Because if we don't start now, here's the problem. This has been going the wrong way for decades.
Yes.
And if we do, it's not going to happen overnight to fix it. But if we don't start fixing this and starting the awareness and raising people's awareness and educating people about all this, this is what I want my legacy to be. And my kids and our future generations can follow, but there will be no more future generations.
That's right.
I don't know if you have kids, but there just won't be. There won't be much of a future without this. I asked my son. He has a girlfriend, and I jokingly said, "Oh, when am I going to be a grandfather?" You know, and he said, "Dad, I'm not going to." I was joking. He says, "Dad, I'm not going to bring a kid into this world," and it was a very profound thing.
It was.
But he's right. I mean, it's as sad as that sounds. We are living in times that are absolutely out of control.
Absolutely. It's just such an honor and a blessing to talk to you and see where you see the envision of the world and where it needs to go. It all makes perfect sense to me, and I know to say you have a lot of work ahead of you would be an understatement. I love the quote on your YouTube channel. It says, "Giving is the most endearing quality of a person. It shows the depth of a person's character." My friend, you have a lot of character, and it's been an honor to talk to you today.
You as well, David. Thank you so much.
Listen to Your 20-Minute Podcast with David Brower on the go. Downloads are available on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, any podcast app, and on our website at davidbrowervo.com/Your 20-Minute Podcast. Until next time, thank you for listening.